I thought I was finally over. I thought I would breathe again, smile without faking it. But then I found the one thing I wasn't supposed to find, and now I don't know who broke me more. Final part. I thought I'd feel powerful, I admitted, slamming the door, walking away, and I just felt tired. He nodded. Healing isn't dramatic, Maya. It's boring and slow and stupid, but it's yours. I looked at him, and for a second, just one, I remembered what it felt like when he held me that night. When I broke, and he didn't look away. Part of me wanted to lean in again, but I didn't. Because this wasn't a rebound. And I didn't want to blur lines again. Not with Elias. Thanks for showing up, I said. He shrugged. I always will. And it was scary how much I wanted to believe that. I cleaned my room, and I don't mean picked up laundry kind of clean. I mean deep clean. Moved furniture, threw out old candles, scrubbed the floor like I was trying to erase him from the wood. I found a shirt Noah left behind, shoved way in the back of my drawer, held it for 3 seconds, then dropped it in a garbage bag, like it burned. I wasn't crying, I wasn't angry, I was just done. After that, I updated my resume. It was dusty and tragic, just like me. Leah came over while I was halfway through typing. She brought iced coffee and a to-do list, like the Virgo she is. I made you an appointment, she said, handing me a sticky note. For what? Therapy, she said. Before you roll your eyes, just try. I didn't roll my eyes. I just nodded. Because honestly, it didn't sound like a bad idea anymore. The next day, I went to therapy, like a grown woman who was trying, even if she was scared shitless. The office was warm, smelled like vanilla and books. The therapist was soft-spoken and didn't rush me. She asked about him. I talked, not a flood, not a breakdown, just a steady leak. Like everything I bottled up finally had somewhere to go. Afterward, I walked home. Noah didn't call, didn't text, didn't knock again, and I didn't go looking. A week passed. I applied for jobs, got rejected a bunch, then, finally, an interview. Some cozy little bookstore on Bloor. Nothing fancy, but it felt right. And then, one night, Elias texted me, "Hey, I'm outside. No pressure." I looked out the window. He was sitting on the hood of his car, headphones on, drinking something warm. He wasn't asking to come up. He wasn't demanding attention. He was just there, existing, giving me space to decide. I grabbed my jacket. We sat in his car, listened to music. Didn't say much. At one point, he looked over at me and said, "You seem lighter." "I feel less haunted," I said. He smiled, the kind that goes slow. "I like this version of you." I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, I believed I could start again. Not because of him, but because I chose to. It happened on a Tuesday. Not the kind of Tuesday that warns you, the kind that just shows up, quiet, cold, unbothered. I was walking through Queen Street West, headphones in, pretending I had somewhere important to be. I didn't. I just didn't want to be home. Didn't want to sit in the silence and wonder what he'd be doing if he wasn't a ghost in my story. And then, like the universe still had a cruel sense of humor, I saw him. Noah, standing outside a bookstore of all places, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. Same stupid smirk like the world still owed him something. My stomach didn't drop. My heart didn't race. It was worse. It was still. Like I froze from the inside out. He didn't see me at first. Or maybe he did. Maybe he looked right through me like I was just another girl he used to love and leave. I should have walked away. God, I should have. But pain has this strange habit of pulling you back one last time. So I walked over. No plan, no script, just every piece of me that still needed to know. Why? Hey, he looked up, and for a split second, he looked guilty, like his heart remembered mine. But only for a second. Maya, he said, like it was just any other day. Like I hadn't spent months grieving him like a death. You look good. Do I? I asked, deadpan. Because you don't. That made him laugh. I hated that it still sounded familiar. We stood there in awkward air. He asked how I'd been. I said fine. He asked if I was seeing anyone. I said, that's not your business anymore. He nodded like he deserved that. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him. But instead, I gave him what he never gave me. Closure. I don't need answers, I said. I thought I did, but I don't. I just need you to know that you broke something in me. Something I spent months rebuilding. And I hate that you still get to walk around like you're not the villain. He swallowed hard, said nothing. I loved you, Noah, more than I should have. And you... I stopped, closed my eyes. Let the words go like smoke. You didn't even try to love me right. He looked like he might say something, but I didn't care anymore. I'm done carrying this, I said. You can keep whatever pieces you left behind. And I walked away. Didn't look back, didn't cry, didn't feel small. For the first time since him, I felt free. There's a kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It just hangs, heavy, still, too loud for its own good. That's what I felt walking back to my apartment after Noah. No tears, no shaking hands, no dramatic collapse on the bed. Just me and this unbearable, aching silence. It was over. Not in the way love ends in stories, with betrayal or fireworks or slamming doors. It ended like a storm that had passed, leaving the streets flooded and broken. You survive it. But damn, it takes pieces of you with it. I sat on the floor that night in my oversized hoodie, staring at the wall like it held answers. Noah was gone, not just out of my life, but out of my soul. And weirdly, that hurt more, because the truth is, I didn't just lose him today. I'd been losing him slowly, through the nights he didn't come home, through the lies I swallowed like pills, through the girl I had to become just to keep him. What happened today was just the final cut, the one that finally bled out what was left. Elias texted, "You okay?" I stared at the screen for minutes, then finally typed back, "I think I am. Just not the kind of okay I thought I'd be." He replied almost instantly, "I'm proud of you." Just that, no pressure, no advice. And somehow, that hit deeper than all the I love yous I'd begged for in the past. I didn't sleep. I lay there thinking about the girl I used to be, the one who thought love was supposed to hurt, the one who thought being chosen meant you were worthy, the one who mistook obsession for passion. And then I thought of the girl now, bruised, tired, but breathing, the girl who walked away. The silence didn't feel like a punishment anymore. It felt like a reset, like maybe this was the first night of the rest of my life. The next day was soft, like the world had caught its breath too. Everything was muted, the noise of the city, the chatter of people in coffee shops, the honking cars outside my window. It was as if I'd stepped into a different life, one where everything wasn't so loud, so demanding. I didn't know if I was still numb from the night before, or if I had finally gotten used to the quiet that had taken over my mind. But I knew one thing for sure. I had to get out of the apartment. I texted Elias, "Want to meet up for coffee? Need a break from my thoughts." He replied almost immediately, "I'll be there in 15." I smiled. It felt nice to know someone wanted to be there. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. The coffee shop smelled like vanilla and freshly ground beans. It wasn't the fancy kind with neon lights and artisanal labels, but the kind where you'd find old men reading newspapers and young people with headphones in, lost in their own worlds. When I walked in, Elias was already there, leaning back in his chair, tapping away at his phone. He looked up when I walked in, his eyes soft and warm, but not too intense. Not like he was expecting something, just like he was happy I was there. "Hey," he said, his voice gentle. "Hey," I replied, sitting down across from him. The table was small, just enough for two, but it felt like a safe distance for now. Not too close, not too far. I looked at the cup in front of me, the steam rising from it, and then back at Elias. I didn't know how to start. I didn't know how to say what I was feeling, so I just let it hang there. Elias, as always, read the silence like a book. "You're not alone," he said quietly, and it wasn't a pitying statement. It wasn't an, "I'm sorry you went through that," kind of sympathy. It was something real, something human. I met his gaze and nodded, but I couldn't speak. Words felt too heavy right now, too final. He didn't push. He never did. Instead, he just sat there with me, and that was enough. We stayed like that, drinking our coffee, the world around us moving while we just existed. "I never expected this," I said, breaking the silence. The words felt strange on my tongue, but they were true. "I never expected you to be here either," he replied with a soft smile. The moment was tender, fragile even. We weren't talking about what had happened, about Noah or the broken pieces. We weren't rushing into anything. We were just here, together. And for the first time in a long while, I felt okay with that. It was strange, but with Elias, there was no rush, no deadlines, no ticking clocks to remind me that time was slipping away. And I liked it that way. The days after that coffee felt like I was learning to walk again, slowly, cautiously, but with each step, the weight on my chest lifted just a little more. It wasn't an instant fix. I didn't wake up one day and feel perfect or whole. But I started to realize something important. I didn't have to fix everything. Not yet. Not all at once. It was a Tuesday morning when I finally did it. I packed up the few things I had at Noah's place. Clothes, some books, an old jacket I forgot I left behind. It wasn't a grand gesture, no big confrontation, just a quiet goodbye to a life that wasn't mine anymore. When I got back to my apartment, I threw everything on the couch and sat down. There was no need to cry. I had already shed the tears that had been building up for months. I was just done. Done trying to fix someone who didn't even know how to fix himself. Done holding onto a love that felt more like an obligation than a choice. The next few days were a blur of small victories. I spent hours at the gym, not because I wanted to look better, but because it felt good to move, to feel my body working in a way it hadn't in a long time. I went for long walks, letting the crisp autumn air fill my lungs and remind me I was still alive. I started cooking for myself again, making meals that made me smile, even if it was just pasta and garlic bread. But the most important thing I did was this. I didn't check my phone, not once. I realized I was so used to waiting for a message. For Noah, for something, anything, but it wasn't coming anymore. And I was okay with that. That night, Elias and I met again. We sat in the same coffee shop, the one that felt like a secret haven where time didn't matter. We didn't talk much, but there was something comforting in the silence, like we were both processing something without needing to fill the space with words. "Everything okay?" he asked, his voice soft. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "It's strange, but I think I'm starting to understand what you meant about choosing myself first." He smiled back, not in a proud way, but like he'd been waiting for me to get it all along. And maybe he had. I realized then that I wasn't alone. Not in the way I thought I was. I didn't need Noah to tell me I was enough. I didn't need anyone to validate me, not anymore. The validation I needed was coming from within, from the girl who had finally chosen to walk away from the chaos, from the girl who was finally starting to love herself in all her messy, imperfect glory. "I'm really proud of you," Elias said. And for the first time, I believed it. We didn't need to rush things. Not with each other, not with life. But one thing was clear. I was finally building something solid, something that didn't depend on anyone else's love to make it real. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could breathe without holding my breath. It's funny how life can suddenly change. One moment, everything feels heavy, impossible, like you're drowning in the weight of choices you didn't ask for. And then, without warning, the clouds part. The sun peeks through, and for the first time in months, you feel warmth on your face again. I didn't have it all figured out, not by a long shot, but I was moving forward, slowly, sure, but I was moving. The first thing I did was call my mom. I hadn't realized how much I missed her until I heard her voice. She had always been my biggest cheerleader, even when I didn't feel like I deserved one. "Maya." Her voice was warm, a little confused but hopeful. "What's going on? You sound different." "I am different," I told her. "I'm okay. I'm really okay." She didn't ask about Noah. She didn't need to. We spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing, about old friends I hadn't thought about in years, about the weather, about the dog she'd adopted last month. It was all the small things that made me realize how far I'd strayed from who I used to be, and how much I had to rediscover about myself. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't alone anymore. I had never really been alone. I had just forgotten how to see the people who truly mattered. People like Elias, who quietly respected my space, but was always there when I needed him. People like my mom, who would drop everything to listen to me laugh or cry. The next day, I did something I had promised myself I would never do again. I went to see Noah. It wasn't for closure, not really. It wasn't to get an apology or make him understand what he had done. It was just because I needed to do it for me. To face him one last time, not as someone trapped in the past, but as a woman who had learned to walk away. I stood outside his apartment for a while, staring at the door that used to feel like home, the door that had once felt like a prison. When he finally opened it, his face was empty. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but I knew it wasn't this. His eyes were dull, and he looked tired, like someone who had stopped fighting long ago. "Maya," he said softly, I didn't expect you." "I know," I said, the words coming out smoother than I expected. But I needed to say something. I needed to see you, For me. He didn't argue, didn't try to pull me back in. He just nodded, like he understood. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything." And that was it, the final moment of closure. No drama, no big confrontation, just a quiet, mutual acknowledgement that we had both lost something we could never get back. I left his apartment with no more questions, no more doubts. There was nothing left for me in that space. Nothing but memories that had once felt real, but now seemed like distant echoes of who we had been. As I walked away, I took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. I wasn't running from anything anymore. I wasn't chasing after a love that had already crumbled. I was just walking, walking toward something new. Elias was waiting for me at the coffee shop, just like he always was. We didn't need words to say what had already been said. We didn't need to rush anything, to label anything. We just needed to be. "I did it," I said as I sat down across from him. "I'm done with the past." He smiled, his eyes warm. "I'm proud of you, Maya." And maybe for the first time in a long time, I was proud of myself too. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. It was my story, my choices, and I was the one writing it now. The future was still uncertain. There would be mistakes, there would be challenges, but I was ready for whatever came next. Because I wasn't running from anything anymore. I wasn't afraid, and that was all that mattered. I looked out the window, letting the world move on around me. And for the first time in months, I smiled, knowing I had taken the hardest step of all. I had chosen myself, the end. I didn't walk away healed. I walked away choosing myself. And maybe that's how healing begins. If you're still here, listening to this, thank you. You didn't just follow my story, you felt it with me. Through the heartbreak, the mess, the healing. I don't know your name, but I swear I felt your presence on the nights I couldn't breathe. So from the deepest part of me that still believes in love, even after everything, thank you for not looking away.